Now back to Morningline. Here's Steve Helms.
And welcome back, folks, and thank you for joining us today. We are pleased to have with us Marie Murphree. And I always stumble on your last name because I want to say Murphy, but it's Murphree. Am I saying it correct?
That's right. And once you start saying it, you'll never say Murphy again.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. And you are with the Greene County chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. Is that correct?
It's Alzheimer's Association Greater Missouri chapter. We actually cover 58 counties in Missouri. We go from Kirksville in the northeast to Mack County in the southwest.
Wow, so you cover quite a bit of territory.
We do. So
tell us, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with the Alzheimer's Association.
Well, in a previous life, when I was 20, I worked at a long-term care facility, and I'm giving away my age. I was 20 in 1980, so that was just at the very beginning of when we were hearing the word Alzheimer's, and it was the first time I'd actually heard the term. And there were several people in that care facility who had Alzheimer's or some form of dementia. And so that was my introduction to dementia. And having to watch the families when you're 20, you're very impressionable, I think. And watching the families come in, and we had one gal in particular who was in the late stages and could not interact at all. She just essentially sat or laid, and just having the family come in and seeing the pain on their faces made a huge impact on me. So 3.5 years ago, when they were looking for someone to lead the Springfield office, I had a friend say, "Hey, Marie," and the
rest is history.
The rest is history. I just had to go for it.
Now, can you explain, because the difference between, and I guess what they used to call it, a dementia, is there a difference between dementia, or is that like an overarching umbrella type?
Dementia is the umbrella. Alzheimer's is just the most common form of dementia. And so there are several types. Parkinson's, there's a Parkinson's-related dementia. There's Lewy body. There's frontal lobe dementia. So, and there's vascular dementia. Vascular dementia, of course, is, like if you have heart issues, strokes, that can lead to. It doesn't mean it will, it just can. Mm-hmm. So there are several types of dementia. Alzheimer's is just the most common form. And
the treatments, I would assume, vary, or are they similar?
They're similar. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of ways to treat Alzheimer's or dementia. We have medications that do help the neurons make connections, but it doesn't really slow the progress. It just helps the person make best use of their brain power.
Right. What they have
current. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, it impacts a lot of people, and it's a terrible thing, I think. What does your association do other than bringing awareness about to this terrible issue?
Well, we do have an advocacy arm because all of our medical experts have stated that it's going to take $2 billion with a B dollars a year in order for us to find a cure. And if we don't find a cure pretty quickly, the number of people who have Alzheimer's is growing so rapidly that we will bankrupt our Medicare system.
And we're getting there without that. And this is just another.
This is just another log on that fire.
Yeah.
So we do advocate for more research dollars. Currently, the Alzheimer's Association is the number 3 funder of research behind the U.S. government and the government of China.
And really, when you think about this, and we were talking about some of the leading causes, cancer. Not heart disease, rather, is the number one. But the difference, that can kill somebody and you're done. Alzheimer's, it is a wasting disease, and you live for years and maybe even decades.
You can. We know people who have lived for 10, 15 years with the disease. And with the research that's currently being done, we are starting to find out that people actually do show signs as early as their 40s, 20 years before you really start seeing those memory issues.
Mm-hmm. And what's the cause of Alzheimer's?
Don't know. We do know that there are genetic components to Alzheimer's, but you and I may have, it's called the APOE4 gene. You may get it, and I don't.
Right.
So it's so complex that we're still figuring those things out. We do know that there are other forms of dementia, like vascular dementia. That there is a direct cause that that happens to be heart disease. And your higher blood pressure, which causes mini strokes and such. So that causes vascular dementia. But with Alzheimer's, it is a development of plaques and tau that start forming on your brain, and it causes the neurons to not be able to communicate with each other. So
now, would you say it's more hereditary, passed along, or like you say, just anybody can have it and it just comes
if you have
in?
a brain, you can get Alzheimer's.
Okay, very well. That's not encouraging. Some people may say I don't have one, so I guess I'd be okay.
Well, I've had the same thing with.
Folks, if you'd like to ask some questions of Marie Murphree here from the Alzheimer's Association, you can call in at 862-9977, 1-800-375-0056. And today is the longest day.
Yes.
And what's significant about today?
Well, the Alzheimer's Association has a very individualized fundraising event called The Longest Day. It is our second signature event. And what we do is it is trying to bring awareness to the fact that every day is the longest day for people with Alzheimer's and their caregivers. For each person with Alzheimer's, it's estimated that there are 3 family members that are giving care to that person. It is really a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job. So what we do is we ask people to do something they love. You don't actually have to do it for 16 hours, but today is the longest day of the year because it's the summer solstice. So we ask people to do something that they love and raise funds for the Alzheimer's Association.
And that would be to me, that's a very important thing, because what do we do if we don't have the funds to solve this? Like you had mentioned, this is a ongoing problem that's just going to compound as folks become more debilitated.
Exactly, and the Alzheimer's Association, we have education services, we do education programs, we do support groups, we do one-on-one care consultations with the families. All of those services are offered at no charge, and so on top of the research aspect, we are trying to help the families navigate that very difficult road that is Alzheimer's.
This is Morningline, folks. We are speaking with Marie Murphree from the Alzheimer's Association, and we will be right back after these messages.
Now back to Morningline. Here's Steve Helms.
And welcome back, folks, and thank you for joining us on this magnificent Monday, June 20th. And the numbers are 862-9977 and 1-800-375-0056. If you have a question or concern about Alzheimer's, we have Marie Murphree from the Alzheimer's Association. And today is the longest day, which highlights opportunity for folks to raise some money for Alzheimer's. Thank you again for joining us. What, in your 3 years that you've been with the association, is there anything that you've noticed or that has stood out to you after looking back?
In the 3 years I've been with the association, one of the things that I have noticed is that just in 3 years we have had an increase in, for lack of a better term, responsiveness. People are really starting to recognize that this is a growing, it's actually considered a public health issue because of the growing number of people that we have with the disease, and the caregivers a lot of times are still in the workforce. So employers, when you think about your employees who have a parent who has it or a spouse, we do have people that are under the age of 60 with this disease. We have several families here in the Ozarks that are dealing with it prior to the age of 60. You have somebody in your workforce who is helping to care for that individual. They may have to show up for work late. They may have to miss work because they have doctor's appointments that they're responsible for getting their family member to. It is it is an issue. We ask employers to please be, patient and understanding with these families, because it's a huge, it has a huge impact on the family in terms of, the caregiving role.
And if you had a small business, any business, been a manager or supervisor, employee issues are a huge problem in the workplace, and so you're continually trying to navigate that. And so I applaud any employer who can do what they can to help people, and of course to keep your best and brightest. That's often how you
Exactly, because you don't want to lose that person, because it costs money to retrain.
Yeah.
And so it's becoming it's becoming a situation where just trying to work through that, and that's one of those things that we talk to families about, trying to help with the navigation through the course of the disease, because it's so difficult.
Well, talk us through that if you would. When a family or an individual finds out that they have Alzheimer's, I guess any particular one, or what are the stages and steps that they might go through and help they can look to find?
One of the first things that we suggest very strongly is to get themselves to an elder care attorney or a lawyer, and start talking about a durable power of attorney, because without that, when the time does come, if the family hasn't done that, then they have to go through the process of getting guardianship,
Right.
which is a long process and very difficult. And so if you have that durable power of attorney in place while you're still, everybody's still present, that is the most important thing that you can do, because it does help the family then navigate through those other situations. The other thing is to make sure that your estate is in order, and those types of things. We also we give a list of questions to ask your doctor. One of our education programs literally leads. It separates we have the caregiver and the person with the disease in at the same time. The person with the disease goes on one track, the caregiver goes on the other, so that they can see, okay, these are the things that you might be seeing. And these are the questions you need to be asking. These are the things that you can be doing, as well as with the caregivers. So it's very important to get into the Alzheimer's Association and start getting that education. And if you can get in with support groups, that's phenomenally helpful for the caregivers in particular. For people in the early stages, we have engagement groups, because we have found through our research that staying socially engaged is incredibly important. And a lot of people, when you start forgetting things, when you start having problems communicating, you start to withdraw, and you don't want to do that.
So like exercise.
Exercise is good.
Get your physical exercise, but also mental exercise. You're staying out there and continuing to work that.
And staying in contact with people. It really does. It's amazing how that does help.
Have they, with the research done, and this is there anything that's I think it's maybe with heart disease. There's certain things you of course exercise and eating right helps. Are there any things that they found that tend to have help maybe delay the process of Alzheimer's, or they think maybe helps protect you somewhat? Right.
We do always encourage people to continue to exercise your brain, continue learning, continue. I'm 56 and I'm relearning Spanish. I had 3 years in high school, but you don't lose it. You don't use it, you lose it. But we, crossword puzzles, logic problems, do stay socially engaged. And then also we have brain food. There, just like you have heart food. There, walnuts. And if you follow a heart healthy diet, and then exercise, all of those things, anything that keeps your heart and the rest of your body healthy will help keep that brain healthy as well.
And I'm just thinking of these things. So it sounds pretty common sense. Unfortunately, I don't do common sense much. I eat too much and don't exercise enough, or eat the wrong things. Is there if you again you discover you're having Alzheimer's or your onset? Is there a regimen? You mentioned some drugs that help a little bit. How far along? And when you talk about, we're needing so much money per year for research, is there an idea of when they think, in 10 years, 5 years, is there that we might have more? Our goal
is to have a cure by 2025. Now, that's not too far down the road, but if we continue, we have a lot of studies out there that are promising, but they're not far enough along for us to really feel like, but they're showing some really promising results. We have actually one here in Bolivar that there's a memory center up there that's doing some research for Eli Lilly. So there are lots of things going on.
Where would someone get information about your association, or I think you have a hotline people can call in?
Yes, our hotline is 1-800-272-3900, and that is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by licensed social workers who are trained specifically for Alzheimer's related issues. So if you have somebody that's wandering at 2:00 at night, because that happens, and you're having issues, then you can call that hotline and there's somebody there that will help you. For the local office, our office is located at 1630 West Elfindale. And then our phone number is 417-886-2199. You can call and talk to our staff, we have 2 care consultants on staff that will that are willing and waiting to talk to you. And then if you are an internet person, alz.org/Greater Missouri.
Okay, well, very good. We've got a couple minutes left, a minute and a half. Any last words you might like to share with our listeners on how they can address this issue, or perhaps even help and volunteer?
Well, we can always use volunteers. We do use volunteers to help us with answering the phone. We use volunteers to help with our various events. We have Walked-ins Alzheimer's coming up. And we have a host of volunteers for that, because we're expecting at least 1,600 people this year at that walk. So you can imagine 1,600 people in Jordan Valley Park. We need a lot of volunteers.
A lot of volunteers, yeah. Sounds like a good event.
That's right. We also use volunteers in our advocacy efforts. We go to the state capitol every March to talk to our state representatives, because the state of Missouri is one of the states that has enough forethought that they provide respite dollars for families who have a person living at home. So,
very good. Well, Marie, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And that's Marie Murphree, and she is with the Alzheimer's Association. And you can get more information at 886-2199 or go to alz.org/Greater Missouri. And thank you, folks, for joining us. We'll be right back after these messages.